Where are you from?
Ethiopia.
Ethiopia.
Yeah.
You know that just this morning I had some Ethiopian coffee.
Yeah, yeah.
Pop, pop, pop. Excuses, excuses, excuses. We've all heard that shaming phrase once or twice in our lives. Today, I wanted to share with you some thoughts on a little different angle on that, and it's called avoidance behavior. And I might actually relate it to this vlog right here and why you haven't heard from me in a while. Essentially, avoidance behavior is the idea of either consciously or unconsciously escaping from an uncomfortable situation rather than facing it and following through. It comes from fear, anxiety, stress. It can come from depression. And about 99% of the time, it originates in childhood. I know it did for me. I'm going to share an example of that. It has lifelong consequences. Any of us that can relate can probably relate to how it's affected relationships, our career, lots of different areas in life, and including our just purpose in our lives. I know right now I'm actually thinking about my inbox back at home, and basically I'm going to have to get another inbox because this one is stacked so full, stuff is actually overflowing. And by the way, we're going to talk about some possible ways to address avoidance behavior, but I'll just tell you up front, there is actually a magic cure, and it's drugs and alcohol. But I wouldn't recommend it, and it's not a very sustainable cure for it, so bad idea. I have avoided so many things in my life, starting from such a young age. I grew up in the very, very southern tip of Texas, right on the border. And when I was a little guy going to school every day, I was a teeny tiny minority, and I got bullied mercilessly. So I learned avoidance behavior of finding ways to not go to school. Yeah, it's pretty painful. I would play sick and play sick and play sick and or hurt myself or whatever, just to not have to go to school and face that. And I believe that's where a lot of this started for me. Relationships, also at a fairly early age, maybe a little later, in high school, junior high and high school, I think I gravitated towards the wrong crowd because it was just easier. And they practice behavior, partying and whatnot, that helped all of us avoid what was actually going on inside. I think I've practiced avoidance in going deeper and deeper spiritually. I heard this phrase, contempt prior to investigation, and there are a lot of things in life that I wanted to hold on to my old way of thinking and avoid maybe opening myself up to new spiritual methods, new spiritual practices, and the old way was safe. Then I learned that that when I got into recovery, I learned here's a train coming, so wait for the horn, you'll hear it. When I got into recovery, I learned that an essential part of my recovery program was reaching out and helping others. Man, when we're feeling really wrecked and alone and down, It's a method that works just about 100% of the time. But when you're bummed out and depressed and really down in the dumps, that is the very last thing that you want to do. So it's kind of taken a lot of my own butt kicking to teach me that that's something that I really don't want to avoid, that it only perpetuates itself, if you know what I mean.
You know what it feels like when you're about to lose it?
Talk about avoidance behavior. This vlog. I've been at this for a few years, and I've always published irregularly, but the last year I haven't posted hardly anything at all. And you guys have subscribed to this channel, and to think of what I could have done, and to heck with this number of subscribers, but just crafting my message and my technique if I had done this on a regular basis. But I've been deep into avoidance behavior, and I'll give you a little history about that. Let's just say that 2017 was a really rough year. Man, I started that year with really debilitating depression, horrific depression. That year, and I became a psychiatric lab rat. It was probably the darkest time in my life, and it's very hard to explain, really, but I think it was partially just an existential crisis in who the hell I am and my purpose in life. I'm 53 years old, so probably typical for midlife. I had career confusion. My precious wife of just a couple years at the time, we were newlyweds, man, she had to deal with me having this terrible breakdown, and of course, the more depressed I got, the more difficult it was to follow through on things like this, and then that just perpetuated it, and I spiraled deeper and deeper. And a little later on in that year, I started to feel this really bad pain in the top of my ear. And oh my gosh, if I didn't end up having this form of skin cancer, and they had to lop off the top part of my ear. And I went through so much pain for months over this thing. all these reasons, just reasons that you want to avoid something. And hey, that's a legitimate reason. My depression was a legitimate reason, right? Well, once again, if it's a coping mechanism to avoid, then it's really not a coping mechanism after all. It's a self-sabotage mechanism. And there's so many other ways that I've avoided equipment. I'm embarrassed to admit how much I've blamed equipment on me not vlogging regularly. Right now, I have, I'll show you a shot of my setup right now. I have this fantastic full frame Sony a7R III camera and all the gear that I could ever need, but it's been stuck in my craw forever that this camera doesn't have a flip screen, so I have to use a monitor at the top, and that's a pain. And I wish Sony had that feature like Canon did, and on and on and on. And I've done so much learning in tech videos and how-to videos rather than being out there on the streets shooting. Avoidance. You see how subtle it can be, the nuance of it, and how insidious it can be. The reasons are always really legitimate, and they feel so real to us. Oh, video editing software. Do I use iMovie or Final Cut or Premiere? And oh, this is too hard and that's too easy, and going back and forth, ruminating over that. And I notice that every time that I ruminate, I get something out of that. And you know what it is? I get to avoid doing it, whatever it is at the moment. I heard my client the other day talk about her children growing up coming to her and saying, but, you know, let's say it's about schoolwork, but Mom, it's hard. And her reply to them was always, it's hard and I can do hard things. And boy, before she even finished, I had a pen out and I was writing that on the palm of my hand. I love that. And so now we're going to look at maybe some differences and how things are like now for me, and some things that I've learned along the way.
I'm grateful for waking up every day. I'm grateful for, I'm grateful for the struggle, man. You know, I mean, because that puts more life into me.
Have you ever heard of Dialectical Behavioral Therapy, commonly known as DBT? Last year, 2017, when I was going through that battle, I did this course. It was devised by Marsha Linehan, and I'll tell you what, I really owe my life to what I experienced in this course. I don't say learned in this course because it is very much an experiential thing. I went to an intensive outpatient deal and then joined a DBT group and went through 2 complete rounds of that. And there was a concept that I learned that really changed my life. And it was this idea of dialectics. That the idea that 2 opposite things, seemingly opposite things, can exist simultaneously in the same space. Like there's this idea that of opposite to emotion action. Regardless of how I'm feeling, I can take action that's opposite to that feeling or that emotion. And then simultaneously, this idea of radical acceptance. I completely accept down to my bones that avoidance behavior is a characteristic of mine, something that I've struggled with, and period. That's that. And now, on the other hand, simultaneously, I can take opposite to emotion action.
I'm grateful for the people that I've met here. Like, I've actually met more incredible people that have done more for me than my blood family has ever done for me, you know? Dry clothes on rainy days like this and stuff like that, and they're street people too. Like, it's crazy. I appreciate that I've been had a chance to see people come together like this.
Another practice that was such a huge help for me was two-way prayer. And if you'll just Google twowayprayer.org, you'll learn more about it. It started way back in the days of the Oxford group, but the main spiritual breakthrough for me was that I can communicate with God. It's the idea of writing down physically, here we go again with that physical thing, writing down physically what I have, a question that I have for God, a concern or just feelings that I'm having, and then taking the time to listen and let the ink flow and let God speak through me, speak through that pen down on to paper. And I've learned to incorporate it throughout my day, every single day. So once again, see here, I've been opening up to new and different methods of seeing things, and it's really freed me up to be able to experience life in ways that I avoided before.
I am grateful for life, for the breath that I have in my lungs, and for the fact that over the last year, God has taken me on an amazing journey, and I have gone from homeless to not homeless, from not working to working, from a battered and bruised woman to someone who has a new look on life, and I actually have light and hope.
The roots of avoidance behavior run very, very deep. Anything carried from childhood does, of course. But fortunately, the solution, the way to address it and the way to have victory over it is so simple, especially because it's a daily endeavor. Nike's in a lot of hot water right now, but my goodness, did they ever have a great slogan, and just do it. There's a book out there, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And it seems so pop psychology, right? But it's not. It's like starting with baby steps and thinking about one little thing that we want to tackle that day that we don't want to tackle that day. And I'm not talking about getting to the bottom of an inbox either. It's simple, simple, simple things. Pray for the strength, pray for God's direction, and you'll find it. So today for me, I actually do have more than one. This hotel is actually connected to, I'm in Dallas right now with my wife on a seminar here, and this hotel is actually connected to Reunion Tower, the huge tower in Dallas with the big sparkly light ball at the top of it, elevator to the top. So there's an observation deck up there, and I'm not going to do that. At least I don't want to do that, because it's just stupid. Why go up to another observation deck? And it's going to cost some money to do. It's going to be a hassle. Which one of my cameras should I bring up there? Would they even let me take this setup up there? It just sounds too complicated. So, Ta-da! That's Big D, baby. Hey, I'll give you a guess what that red building is right in the center of the frame. Here's a hint. Right to the left of it is a grassy knoll. I haven't been here in many years, and so there's an opportunity. I'm right here downtown. There's an opportunity to go do some street shooting and street video. But you know, I get so nervous when I do street shooting and approach people out on the streets. So I think I'm gonna blow it off today. What if I get into conflict with someone out there? They don't like their photo being taken, or much less I end up bumping into a dangerous crowd.
We just took a picture. We looking.
I know, what's wrong with that?
I don't want you taking my picture. You didn't ask.
Oh, well.
You have to ask. You just can't come from over there.
Yeah,
just
you
jump in
can.
and take a picture, man.
Yeah, you actually
And you
can.
still-
But you can.
No, you can't.
Yeah, you can.
No, the fuck you can't.
Public property.
I don't give a fuck. You don't take a picture of us.
I am a human
Go
being.
take a picture of a goddamn ass building or something.
All right, man. I think I'm going to put that one off. Yeah, it's raining, and I might get wet, and my gear might get wet. Not everything here is weather sealed, and so it's probably a bad idea. I guess I could use my iPhone, but that's chintzy, and I might risk you guys thinking that my video and my photographs are below par. So anyway, blow that off. I'm not going to go downtown shooting. Ta-da! Oh, wait a second. This is not a happy place. Sorry. So when you come down to the depository, there are guys out here that are conspiracy theorists telling all these tales about what happened on that fateful day. Sounds like he's got an audience. He's getting ready to sell something, that's for sure. enough about me. Tell me about some of your own experiences, some things that you've learned to face and walk through with dignity. Little baby steps that you've taken in addressing this idea of avoidance behavior. I know this video's run a little long. I hope that what I've shared with you is able to help you, and I just appreciate any feedback that you might have. Take care.
And I'm grateful for God, and I'm grateful for everything. I'm just happy. I'm happy. Grateful for being happy. I'm blessed.